I'm a creative business owner. I love to help businesses with strategy, have time blocks like throughout my week where I sit down and get coffee with a business owner. Finding other entrepreneurs to like connect with and like literally become friends with them will help that loneliness so much. Where I've had bad relationships with social media, with producing my own content. And this was something that I discovered in therapy, you know? And I had like convinced myself that I didn't really have an issue because I wasn't like a daily drinker, like a daily user. It was more of like a binging situation for me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Frank Podcast Episode 40. Today's 40. I can't believe it's already 40 episodes in. Today we have a guest of owner of Collab Creative, and then people who are maybe listening to this episode that people are struggling. Maybe they had an issue with COVID, some sort of mental health, but wanted to start a business or something like that. And if you're interested in social media, how to make money on the social media. If you have those kind of questions, probably this episode would be a good for you. So welcome to the show, Kaylin Hill.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here for episode 40.
Thank you. I mean, I thought we never met, but you know, we met before, so that's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy. So I think it was, I want to say maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. I saw Frank, isn't that the name of your?
Yeah.
Had posted a position about social media, and then we came in and we chatted, and it was great. I mean, I left feeling energized, you know, like obviously like it didn't work out, but everything worked out the way in my life the way that it was supposed to. So, but yeah, I think that's so funny that we met before.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, like after that, you started a business, and then can you kind of tell me about yourself? That like I like to ask question that if you're having a bio for your new website, what that bio would say.
Okay. Well, I just kind of put my foot forward by just saying like, I'm a creative business owner. I love to help businesses with strategy and just coming up with creative ideas. So with starting a business, I started in February of 2020, which obviously COVID hit really hard in our area, specifically in Oklahoma, you know, in March. And at the time, it was just like pure chaos, but I think that it was the biggest challenge for someone who is a creative business owner and trying to help businesses learn how to market themselves in a creative way, because I had to help businesses create new revenue streams, you know, like, and help them like find money, you know, on the table that they didn't realize was sitting there, you know. So I think a lot of businesses were struggling, and being able to jump in and help with those processes, being creative, and then helping them implement all those processes was just like the biggest challenge for me. But it was also like, I did it, you know, and now I have more confidence as a business owner.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you explain creative business owner?
I guess I just say like, if someone comes to me with a problem, like I really want to help solve it in a creative way. I like to think outside of the box. I like to get them in touch with the right people. You know, if it's something that I can personally help them with, I'll help them with it. If not, like I just keep my contacts and I keep in touch with all of them, because if I have someone that needs what they do or vice versa, like I love connecting other people. Yeah. So that's been a really great way to grow my business too, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like what was the process of starting your business? Like, so you went to interview, right? Like probably you went to different kind of interviews too, right? Yeah. At a certain point, like you're like, well, this is not work out, but also like I can do it myself. Yeah. Like what was the thought process to start a business? Okay, so before I started my business, I had a full-time marketing director position for Jimmy John's for all of Central Oklahoma. And it was Freaky Fast. Yeah, it was so much fun. Like the branding of Jimmy John's is so much fun. Yeah. Everybody knows Freaky Fast, you know. But I had one of the franchise owners in Oklahoma City that I worked for. His wife actually owned a marketing agency in Norman. And when I first got the position of marketing director, we got in the car one day and he's like, I'm going to drive you around to all my stores. You're going to get to meet the teams. And honestly, like these are the communities that you're going to get to know a lot about, because we like to connect with businesses and we like to connect with the community and what they care about in order to, you know, serve them the best way. So we were driving around in the car one day, and we just were having conversations about what I'm interested in, what I like doing, like what my career history was like leading up to that.
what kind of like inspired the path that I was on. And he was like, you really need to meet my wife. And I was like, okay, I don't know why,
Yeah.
but at the time, so at first my position with him was part-time. This was like, I was working full-time for the city of Moore, Oklahoma, in the Parks and Recreation Department. And I would work for Jimmy John's 9 a.m. to noon. And then I had to work at Parks and Rec 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And so I was like really busy. And it was funny because he hired me for that part-time position. And then I also got an offer from the city of Moore to work out of Parks and Rec. They wanted to move me to work in City Hall. And they gave me this job offer, and it was going to be 8 to 5. So I wasn't going to be able to
do the
Jimmy John's thing.
Yeah.
And I had just started it, and I was excited to do it. And it was cool to get hired for that position because there was only one other person in the country that had that job title, and they were in Utah. So for me, as a creative person, I'm like, oh, there's only one other person in the country that does this. They're still kind of forming this position, and I get to be part of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a bummer that I got offered the city hall job, but it was like, oh, it's such good money. I'm going to work 8 to 5, and working for the city is, you get great benefits. So it was like a really hard decision. And I was talking to the owner, of the Jimmy John's about it. And he was like, what are you doing on Saturday? Because I was like, I have to give them an answer on Monday. And he was like, is there any way that you can come meet my wife on Saturday? I was like, all right. So I went up there on a Saturday and met his wife, and they offered me the full-time position to work for him and for her business. He was like, you can work for my business full-time. You'll get a full-time paycheck, but Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, you'll drive to Norman and you'll work for my wife, and she'll pay you like as a contracted, like a freelancer. So it was just like, this sounds really fun, you know?
All the offers, yeah.
Yeah. And so I took it, and
You took the Jimmy John gig?
Jimmy John's, and then working for that agency in Norman.
Gotcha.
It was called New Element Marketing. So it was a small agency, and she had small business owners as clients, local Norman, clients. And I did both of those gigs for a while, and I really enjoyed doing the marketing stuff for the small marketing agency versus the Jimmy John's like corporate brand,
Gotcha, yeah.
just because there was a lot more challenges, and you kind of have to get to know the business in a different way when it's small and they're still growing to try to be this big brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then in September of 2019, the woman who owned the marketing agency, who, by the way, was only like a year, or I think she was 2.5 years older than I was. So she was really young herself.
Huh.
And she told me in September of 2019, she said, I have decided that I'm going to close the agency. And
all of a sudden?
Yeah.
No.
And she's like, I know it's doing well, and, we have all these great clients, but I want to be a mom. I was like, okay, I can't fight that. If that's what you want for your life, like I support that, but it was definitely like a bummer because I was just getting so ramped up and excited for being there,
Yeah.
So, she ended up closing in September of 2019, and not shortly after, I ended up picking up a freelance client of mine, and I kind of told the client about what I was doing, where I was working for her Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, and they were like, if you want to come in and meet us on Tuesdays, like we would love that time slot to work with you. So I went to the Jimmy John's franchise owner and let him know, since I no longer work for your wife, my Tuesday and Thursday afternoons are free. I'm going to pick up some clients, and he was actually insanely supportive and, was agreed to, of course, let me continue to do that because I already had that time anyway, So I did that. And from September to December, I just really missed working for small business. So in December, I was like, I'm going to make my own business. I'm going to design a website right now. So I spent December designing a website, and in early February 2020 is when I went full time with my business. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great.
And then like, so how does social media like agency work?
So, I'm like wondering where I should start with that exactly. Well, usually businesses come to me and they've either had someone that they've worked with previously, so they have some like knowledge already about how to work with a social media manager. But oftentimes a lot of people that I work with are like they've just never been active or like aggressive on their social media. It's usually what I get is like, I know I need to do it, I just don't have time. And I'm like, I totally get it, because being a business owner is a lot, you know, and social media and marketing a business like is a full-time job, you know?
Yeah.
So usually I just kind of talk to them about like their budget, like how aggressive they want to be, and then just come up with a bunch of creative ideas for content for a pitch. And once I explain like the creative ideas I have for content, like I guess like topic like umbrellas that we can focus on to help push their business, and introducing to them like what my process is as far as like collaborating with them on their social media. It's either a good fit for them or it's not. And I think that that's like one of the biggest lessons as anyone who's starting a business is to like, and you're working with clients, is to learn how to decipher like what clients are for you and what clients are just not, you know?
Yeah.
In the beginning, I think like, especially with me, like starting a business with COVID and like being concerned about my income, I feel like I was very much working out of this scarcity mindset where I was just like, I need any client that approaches me. Like, I need to figure out how to make this work. I need to figure out how to sell this. I need to figure out how to make it super attractive for them to work with me, you know? And I operated in that way for longer than I really needed to.
Yeah.
But I think it's because I had this like trauma of starting a business in the middle of COVID, you know?
Yeah.
So even once I was in a really great flow where I was getting really great clients to work with and I was making good money, I was still selling myself short by like trying to oversell myself to clients who just like weren't the right fit for me.
How did you get the client during the COVID? Like it was like Zoom meetings or like email or so on the social media. How did you get the clients?
During COVID, really it was, well, we did meet a lot on Zoom because most people were not in office, you know, and Facebook, honestly, which
like
is
how
surprising.
do they get in touch with you first or?
Yes. So I set up a contact form on my website, you know, put in my SEO on my website, make sure people can find me on Google in the area. And that contact form was really beneficial as far as like understanding their needs pretty immediately, booking the Zoom call, creating less friction as far as like that onboarding process goes. But Facebook is where I really grew my business during that time, which is surprising because like I'm more of an Instagram person.
Yeah.
But my business like has more of a loyal audience on Facebook.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that crazy though?
Then, maybe not now, but then, yes. But I joined a lot of small, like I joined a lot of groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, which I definitely think like as someone who works in social media, like trying to predict trends, trying to predict the future, like I think Facebook is like really going more into that group thing, you know?
Yeah. In 2023, like if the small business have to choose one social media platform,
Yes.
which one do you think they should choose?
Okay, that's really hard to say because I really feel like it depends on what type of industry you work in, as far as like what your goals are and where your most loyal audience is, and also like how are you set up to sell, you know? So I don't know. It just depends on the industry and the business. So
What if, let's say, social media marketing agency?
okay. So for me, I mean, definitely I have seen Facebook work really well for my business. I think it's just because like I got on those groups in Facebook during COVID, but also once COVID let up, I spent a lot of my time getting out and networking locally with people. So I went to like a lot of networking events and made a huge effort to just like have time blocks like throughout my week where I sit down and get coffee with a business owner. Like no matter if they're going to be the right fit for me, if I'm the right fit for them, I just say, I just really want to get to know you about your business and like, what can I do to help send you referrals? You know, going into it with like, I don't need to get anything out of this. Like, what can I bring to help you? We'll get people to sit down with you, and then you meet them, and all of a sudden they have this whole network of people that they're like, oh, this person needs to speak to you and this person needs to talk to you, you know? So forming those connections locally, and then somehow like made my Facebook audience more loyal just because they were all in those local like networking groups too, you know? So I think that's kind of the way that played out.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you think about the social media? I mean, like you work with social media, you make content for yourself too, right? And then like, so like, it's just kind of like, isn't that kind of tiring to like looking at a social media, or like you just love it?
Okay. So it gets very tiring sometimes. Yeah. Honestly, like making my own content is something that I've really wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just like didn't have the courage to put myself out there as me, you know, which I think it all played out the way that it was supposed to with getting into it with my business first and like working with clients and I guess learning through all of that gave me like the knowledge that I felt like I needed to like be ready to like do my own content.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, and a lot of times it is my like creative outlet. You know, like I spend so much time making content for other people that like I miss out on so many opportunities to like just express myself creatively, you know, in any way that I feel like it. So sometimes it like acts as like a really great reset.
Yeah.
But other times once I produce content for myself and it does really well, I get concerned about losing momentum, and I start putting more pressure on myself than I really need to, and I forget that like this is just for fun, you know? And yes, I do make money with it sometimes, but it's not like the end all be all. It's not my like main source of income by any means, you know? So in those moments, I'm like, okay, I need to stop putting so much pressure on myself. The people will always be there. The momentum will always be there, you know? Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, like people say, hey, you have to post like 3 times a day. Yeah. Put the story like 3 times a day. And then like, you know, Gary Vee or whatever, right? Like say that kind of stuff. And then if you're not trained and all that kind of stuff. And then also like I make a content for myself and I'm doing this kind of podcast and all that stuff. And then every time like, well, I got to push every Friday, you know, that's what I said. I mean, it's kind of part of the discipline things, right? But I have a team that they help me out, and I'm grateful for that. And then I don't have to worry about too much. But like lately, I've been thinking, you know, sometimes looking at a social media too much is not good for my human brain.
Right.
So it's just like for my mental health and like looking at people's highlights, you know, it's not really. I don't know, it's good. I mean, like, it's kind of contradicting what I'm doing because I'm putting out the content. I want people to see it, but I'm kind of advocate of like, hey, take a break for a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, do you ever consider as a social media manager or as a individual, do you think social media is good or bad?
I definitely think, I don't know how to, I guess it's like a necessary evil, you know, like, I mean, I've seen it help so many people, and so many people grow their business and reach the people that they really need to reach to like achieve their ultimate mission in life, you know, and to be a part of that is just the coolest thing. But at the same time, I think it's like everything in moderation, you know, it can definitely get super taxing. I've actually talked to like some other creators about this previously, and, you know, have asked them, or, you know, they'll say like, oh, you know, I sit around and I watch content, you know, a lot of the time, all like most of my day. And it's like research, you know, and I do the same thing too, where I'm trying to discover new trends and figure out new ways to like apply, you know, creative things to what my clients are doing or like the content that we're making with them. But I definitely think it's like really important to just like be aware of like when you're starting to like feel the burnout creep in, you know? So
do you have like an app to like stop watching social media?
No, I don't. I've like thought about that before.
Yeah.
And I think like for certain seasons that wouldn't be like a bad idea to implement, like when I just like have a busy schedule, you know?
Yeah.
But I also like just try not to restrict myself,
Yeah.
you know, and just let things happen, you know?
Yeah.
So
That makes sense though. I mean, like, yeah, it just, sometimes it just makes me feel good about like, you know, whenever I wake up, you know, like, you go to, you take your phone and then like you look at it and then like, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, you know? And then like, I'm just like start meditating and all that kind of stuff. I think
That's good.
it's better. And then, but like, whenever I'm like watching YouTube channel and then like, hey, this is like a millionaire person's routine. You wake up 5 a.m., meditate 2 hours and all that kind of stuff. I don't really believe that kind of stuff, you know, but it's just kind of like, I'm kind of doing it in a way, you know, that's just like kind of ironic to do that kind of stuff. But I was wondering that, you know, whenever you're doing social media and stuff, like, what do you think about the online social media, like a dating and stuff?
I have not had much luck with it, to be honest. And I feel like there's been like seasons of my life where I've just like been very concerned with that, but I'm really not right now. And I'm just like really happy. And I feel like I've had another season like this before, but like right now, everything that is happening like with my business has just been going so well. And I've just been like attracting the right things. And I feel like that will happen with dating eventually as well. So I've like kind of stopped the dating apps thing. And it's just like not really been on my radar for a while. I think that actually the previous couple that I worked with that was married, the Jimmy John's, you know, franchise owner and his wife, they actually met on Tinder. So, you know, seeing them have a beautiful relationship and it worked so well, I was like, oh, maybe I'll meet someone online, you know. But it just like hasn't worked out well for me. So
yeah, do you get like DMs and stuff on like your Instagram because you put it out the content all the time?
Sometimes I do, and it's funny because people will disguise ways to like get to you sometimes, which is interesting. I'm like a very trusting person in ways that sometimes I probably shouldn't be. And I just like, I'm a super optimistic person. But I've like had certain things like happen repeatedly, like repeating the same things. It's like, okay, the universe will keep sending you the same lesson until you learn your lesson. You know what I mean? So, I've had people reach out to me and like my like gut feeling was just like, I don't know if this is genuine, but my brain is just like, oh yes, of course it's genuine. You know, it's fine. And where they'll disguise it, you know, with like, wanting to ask me about my sobriety journey, because I do post about that on social media, or, you know, wanting to ask me about owning a business. And of course I want to give advice, you know, because I've always wanted that advice and still seek out that advice. But they'll like start with that, you know, and then try to get into the other topics of dating. And then it's like, oh, you know, it's not
like, hey,
genuine.
You want to hang out and stuff?
Yeah. Where it's like, and then we'll hang out, and then like none of those questions that they originally approached me with were even like asked or addressed. And it's like, I wish it would have just been like genuine up front versus like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a more like so tactic or whatever.
It's like you pretended to be interested in something that you're actually really not interested in. And it's like, I probably would have talked to you had you just like asked, you know?
Yeah.
And whereas like I get all excited to like talk about it, and then it's like we show up and it's like, oh, you weren't being authentic, you know?
Yeah. But what if they're authentic, right? Then like I ask about the business advice, so like what should I do to start a business? Like what would you say?
Honestly, with like thinking about the person that I do want to end up with, I don't know for sure if I want them to be an entrepreneur, but at the same time, it's like,
why not?
So because it's a kind of a crazy life sometimes, you know, and it's like having someone who has a normal job and like just like this stability and just like is like a stable, grounded person where I'm like, oh, you know, I want to do this and I want to do that. And you know,
Right.
But at the same time, like being an entrepreneur is also really lonely. And I feel like some people don't get it unless they're doing it. So it's like, do I want to end up in a relationship with an entrepreneur and then potentially feel like I'm being more understood in a way that I wouldn't have been? You know what I mean?
I know exactly how you feel, but I think that people who are listening probably doesn't understand entrepreneur feels lonely, right?
Yeah.
You want to kind of
really
talk
is.
to me about that?
Yeah. I can't remember who said that to me. I had met someone through a local networking group and we like met at a group and then we exchanged business cards and we sat down for coffee. And I wish I would remember who said that to me, but they said that out loud and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is exactly how I feel, you know? And you know, so that's why I think that if you are an entrepreneur and you start your own business, like finding other entrepreneurs to like connect with and like literally become friends with them will help that loneliness so much. You know, you don't have an HR department, you know, to handle stuff. You know, you're the only one, like with me starting out, like I was the only one that like talked to any of my clients, you know, and dealing with like the praise and like, oh, I'm so glad I'm working with you. I love this content or I love the project versus like, this is so off base. I'm so confused. Like, and I'm like, oh gosh, you know, and it's like, so like that's really lonely because you don't have anyone to really talk to about it when you're just by yourself in the beginning, you know, like obviously like when you build a team, you can like work with someone. It's like, okay, I got a negative feedback today. This has like killed my creativity, but I need someone to help brainstorm with me right now because I want to fix it, you know? So it's like having that team to like help, you know, boost you back up and get you back into the mindset that you need to be in to get your work done. But yeah, when you're the only one, it's like, it's really hard and nobody really gets it, you know, unless they've been in it too. So
yeah, I think like whenever you started, it's like other entrepreneur, like a business owner connection is nice, but also like whenever you built the business too, like that feeling doesn't really go away sometimes. I mean, like for me, like, you know, that, I have a great team. And then like, I think of them, like I told them like friends or like cousin or whatever, as long as they work for our company, like I treat them like a family.
Yeah.
But like not like brother, sister kind of deal. Like it just, let's be honest, you know, just like we're here for the business.
Yes.
But we care about you kind of stuff, and then we care about each other. And then sometimes, you know, like whenever like a problem happens, you know, like it's my responsibility, right? If it's like good things happen, like they get the praise. If bad things happens, I have to take care of it. And then whenever some like financial issue or even I had a HR department, like I hired HR, and then he was like kind of against me and all that kind of stuff. And I can't do this, I can't do that. You can't like hug people. And then I guess that's against the HR rule in the corporation. And I'm like, what? You know, if they're like crying or something, you know, then like, but I guess I can't do that. So I stopped doing that. And then like, it just feels like a little bit of sad because like I know you know, our employees can be like totally friends, right? Like there's no, I guess, repercussion about like, you know, not boss and employee relationship, you know what I mean? Like if it's boss and employee relationship, it just have some sort of walls, you know what I mean? Like have a boundary, have a respect and all that kind of stuff. So I do feel that some sort of, you know, isolation, but I do have my business partner. We have different, you know, but we have a responsibility. Like, you know, he has a responsibility. I have a responsibility. We work together, but it does make sense. It is very, very different than just working for somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think too, like people who just like have this entrepreneur mindset or entrepreneur spirit, they're always like wanting to do something else, wanting to do more, wanting to make like, especially if you have a team, you're like, what can I do to make my team make their lives better, you know?
Yeah.
And so kind of like being in your head all the time and like, what else am I going to do? You know, like that's also kind of like a lonely place to be, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand that because I started like a morning meetings and stuff and like, oh, this would be good for, you know, a team. And then like I kind of got lazy. I stopped doing that. Okay, let's just do some sort of betting going on, you know, in the office. And then like, I just all the time I'm thinking about what can I do better. And then like also as far as business goes, like, okay, I got a video production company. Okay, I built the whole marketing agency, and then we're doing like a merchandise deal right now. And then I'm dipping into like a commercial real estate, you know?
Yeah.
Then I do podcasts, I do YouTube, and then all that kind of stuff. It never ends. And then it's a blessing to be able to do all that.
Yes.
But sacrifice on the other end. And then I love that, you know, picture of like a duck on the water.
Okay.
Like, the duck is like on the surface level. The duck looks like he's like chill, whatever.
Yeah.
But like underwater, like he's pedaling like so hard, you know what I mean?
Frantic, yeah.
I think that's a kind of like what business owner mindset looks like or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's really hard. But you mentioned about sobriety about yourself, and then you say you're sober for 2.5 years?
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
It'll be 2.5 years on July 6th. So yes. Perfect. Yes. So we're close.
How was that journey for you?
It's been wonderful. Definitely have, like, making that decision has helped my life, like my personal life, but it's also like helped my business so much. And, you know, this is like the perfect segue from going from like the duck and like being frantic, pedaling, you know, on the water, to, you know, being a business owner and like having the opportunity that I do with like working with other business owners, like being like super honest, you know, not that I like tell everyone that I work with that I've struggled with substance abuse, but just being honest about, you know, I'm not having a great week, or just like letting them talk about it too. Like, you know, what are your stressors with your business? Like, how can I alleviate that in what I can do for you? Or how can I help you learn how to delegate something to someone else, you know? Because like, you know, I'll have like, for instance, like my girl that does like my bookkeeping, like I try to send her referrals. And if I meet another business owner that's like stressed about their own bookkeeping, it's like, let's take that stressor off your plate. That's going to help clear up your mind so you can do other things, you know? So I guess that's been a really cool like way that I've been able to like apply like mental health and like sobriety, like as an entrepreneur, is just like, it's be frank with them, you know, like let them express themselves, like talk about your stressors. And at the same time, when they feel like comfortable, like talking about what they're stressed about, it's like easier for me to almost like express like what my needs might be with them. Like if I'm working with them and there's like some type of struggle, or there's like an issue with like them adapting a part of my process or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's made everything so much better, including like being a business owner.
Well, what made you like decide to go on sober?
So I just was like struggling with substance abuse. Like I started, you know, when I was like 19, had this like up and down battle. I had gone through bouts of sobriety that I could, you know, do for a month or two. And I had like convinced myself that I didn't really have an issue because I wasn't like a daily drinker, like a daily user. It was more of like a binging situation for me. So that's why I kept lying to myself and letting myself think that it was something that I was going to like continue to be able to maintain as like a lifestyle. But you know, it's, you know, you go out and you tell yourself, oh, I'm just going to go relax. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to go grab drinks. And then it turns into this weekend of drinking. And then come Monday, you're just like drained and exhausted and you're just like not in the right mindset, you know? And, I like obviously like being a business owner during COVID was really stressful. And I think that was the year that did me in, along with like, I think a lot of other people felt like they were just done after that year. But yeah, I had made the decision to attend a facility in January of 2021. And everything just worked out the way that it was supposed to. I feel like the messages that I received during the program that I was in, just all lined up. Everything started finally clicking for the first time.
What was the kind of message you clicked you?
So I was kind of raised in this family where I was brought up to be this people pleaser, you know, and my mom is like the absolute most beautiful, kind human being on the planet. And we definitely are very similar in the people pleasing aspect of it being like very hard when you're always like trying to please others. Like it's so hard to like recognize like if you're okay, you know, or if like you have any needs that you're not meeting for yourself, or, you know, is your time super limited and you're not being honest about it, you know? So the huge like overarching message so when you go to the program, you start inpatient and then you go outpatient, and then you do, their alumni group is the program that I did. So it's in phases. So the second phase is the outpatient. And during that outpatient, was like the overarching theme that my therapist was really focusing on was assertiveness, which like sounds so basic, you know, but when you put it in comparison to like passive versus aggressive, it's like you just want to be assertive. Like you don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to ignore your feelings and your needs as a person and be super passive about them, but just like being assertive in like a kind way, you know, is okay.
Being assertive to yourself or being assertive to others?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
Like, how do you use that?
I guess like for me, it's something that I have to like maintain practice on, like, cause it's not my default as a human being. Like my brain as default goes to like, how can I help someone? What can I do for them? What do they need right now? So it's like for instance, like if I'm communicating with someone who's sick, right?
Yeah.
Like if I have a friend who's sick, right? My immediate reaction is like, okay, I got to finish work today. I got to go to the store. I got to buy stuff to make chicken soup. I got to go drop it off. Do they want me to knock on the door? Do they want me to leave it on the porch? Okay, I got to text them and ask them that, but maybe they're asleep. Maybe I shouldn't do that. It's just like your mind starts racing about like how to make their life perfect and easier, you know? And it's like a distraction from someone who has like self-worth issues. It's like, I'm not important enough to like care about this much, but I care so much about everybody else, you know? So yeah, that's something that I feel like I have to like make sure that I'm like staying in check with. So like if I have a friend that reaches out via text, it's like, oh, I'm really sick. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You're not feeling well. Please let me know if there's something that I might be able to do to help you, you know, instead of just like, I'll be there in 10 minutes, you know. It's not about like sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to be a good friend. And like, I give myself these excuses, but it's like also, no, I'm trying to distract myself from myself, you know, constantly.
So be assertive is don't do too much.
Yeah. And just be honest about your time, how much time you have. It's like if someone's like, oh, I'm sick, instead of just like running over there immediately and being like, okay, I end my work day at 5. Let me know if there's anything I can bring you tonight. You know, that's just like an example.
Gotcha. So is that kind of mental, I guess, progress that helps you to get sober?
Yes. So when I went to the program, I didn't have it in my mind that I had an issue. I just like to party. I just like to have fun, you know? And hearing all of this, it's like all of a sudden everything clicked for me for some reason. That was like the message that I needed to hear about assertiveness, you know? And learning that it's like tied into your family and like the way that you're brought up. It's like just tied into your self-worth issues, and it causes you to have anxiety. You're constantly frantic about how to help someone because like your self-worth is tied to like how much you can do for other people versus just existing, you know?
Yeah, just be who you are kind of deal.
It's like, it's so nice when since being sober, it's taken me a long time still, and I still have to work on it, like I said, but like I can enjoy my evenings alone and not feel like frantic because I'm not doing something to help someone. I can just like relax, you know?
Gotcha.
So, whereas like before that would be really hard, you know?
So that was part of the cognitive therapy?
Yeah, so cognitive behavioral therapy is just kind of like it's what you really do with like any therapist that you see. Like most people that are in therapy would probably know, like, or their therapist is like, yeah, that's what we're doing is cognitive behavioral therapy. So, but yes.
So cognitive behavioral therapy is just a regular therapy?
Yeah. It's like talking about, you know, your behaviors and how to form better habits and things like that.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I mean, I do go to therapy as well. And then like, I think it's just like a lot of guys and like I've talked to, you know, like whenever I start saying stuff, I think a couple of years ago, like, well, I don't need that, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, lately I think things are shifting for some reason. I think that more people I know start going to therapy. They've been loving it. There's like, yeah, I got this appointment like 1 p.m. today. I'm like, good for you. You know what I mean? Like that 2 years ago, it will never happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I was thinking like social media, I'm kind of struggling with it right now. It's like I wanted to talk about mental health on the social media, and I think it's important. However, I think people... I don't know, like I feel like a lot of social media these days is glorifying too much about people have a problem.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, like I have depression, I'm struggling with that, or like athlete, right? For example, NBA player or something like that, or professional athlete comes out, say, hey, I have going through this, all that kind of stuff. So like it's almost like glorified to be say, having a problem is better than went through the problem, say, hey, I'm a good person. That's why I like how you're here talking about your stuff. It's like I'm better in like a positive way, right? But some people on the social media lately, I feel like they're talking about, hey, I'm having a bad time.
Okay.
And everybody's like, hey, I got you. You're good, doing good things. You know what I mean? So I think it's just like little bit of a like, how do I feel about that? Or should I even care? You know what I mean?
Okay, so I definitely know exactly what you're talking about. And I really think I'm just like I said before, I'm a very optimistic, very empathetic person. And I really think that just like stems from someone who is just like struggling and they just like need the validation.
Yeah.
And like when I see it, I most of the time I don't really interact with it unless it's like really out of character for that specific person to like be posting something like that maybe. But if you see it happen over and over again from the same people, like I definitely think it's safe to say like this person struggles to like validate themselves and maybe they don't have anyone in their life to validate them, and that's what they're using social media for. I definitely think that I've been in phases where I've had bad relationships with social media, with producing my own content. And this was something that I discovered in therapy, you know, and because I would get really upset if I didn't get good interactions on some of the content that I would post. And it would just like bug me, and I would get really worked up about it. And it's just like, okay, I had a good piece of content 2 days ago. Why am I like so upset about this? And then my therapist pointed out to me like, you know what you're doing is great and good and it aligns with your message, just because, you know, and it's like, yeah. And I have to tell my business owners the same thing, you know, but it's like I was struggling to like tell it to myself because it's like my personal content, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think a lot of people use social media to validate themselves, you know?
I think they need to, I mean, one, I think that if somebody somebody is a mental stage is healthier and then realize it, maybe reach out to them, say, hey, if you need help or something, you know, talk to somebody. I think that's a good thing. And the other side of it, I think those people, if they can recognize that and then go get like a real help, you know, I think that'd be That'd be probably the solution.
Yes, definitely. Like not using social media as a therapist, like actually going to get a therapist.
Yeah, because social media audience to be therapy and the commenting back will be probably the worst thing they can do.
They're not professionals.
Every podcast episode of the finishing segment, I do ask a couple questions, same question.
Okay.
So what is the advice you can give yourself 5 years ago? So 2018.
Okay, I was 25. 2018. Get sober. Definitely that. Like, just make the jump and just do it, because if it feels like things for some, like I've always felt like I've had talents, but I would like struggle and like shame myself because I felt like I needed to be further along than where I was. And now that I'm sober, I don't do that to myself anymore. It's like I have everything here working for me, you know, to get me to where I need to be. But like the drinking and like partying and feeling like you need to do that and keep up like those relationships, you know, is just holding you back. It's not propelling you forward. Once you get out of it, then you meet your people and you meet who you're supposed to meet, you know, to propel yourself forward. So
awesome.
And yeah, that's not to say like nobody should ever be drinking ever, you know, but it's like if you be honest with yourself if you have an issue with substance abuse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That makes sense.
I guess, do you want me to give like advice about business too, I guess?
Sure.
Okay, so get sober was one. The other one, I would say like just like follow what feels good to you, even if it feels like it's not stable for me. Like instead of taking that city hall job, you know, I ended up working with this young girl who owned her own agency and like inspired me. And like, that gave me the confidence that I feel like I needed to have in order to open my own, you know? So even though it wasn't stable, it was like, I want to do it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be creative. And that's where I want to go. I don't want to work in City Hall, you know, and have an 8 to 5. So I guess that as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense though. But what about, how do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, I'd like to grow my team, and I would love a studio like this one. This would be amazing. So I want to come rent out this one.
Please do.
Having like my own commercial space would be awesome. And just because all my team and we work remotely and it works, and we have great processes in place to get stuff done and maintain a collaborative culture that I've really tried to build. But I just think being able to be in person like would just further that, you know, even more. And the best ideas come from like collaboration, in my opinion. So it's just, you know, having an opportunity for even better communication. So like having my own office, having a building, having a studio would be fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been thinking about that sometime. I went through phases of like growing my team was one of my biggest kind of, I guess, goal at the time. And then it's fun to build the community. It's fun to build the team, right? But it's sometimes that building bigger team goes against your business sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because of I grew my team to like 16 to 18 employees during the COVID. And then during COVID, I had to cut it back to like half. That was the worst time I had in my business, to let somebody go without they have no reason to letting go. Was the hardest moment and the hardest talk I had in the conference room. So I think right now I've been focusing on that, build the process, build the business, and if really necessary, then scale up the team member.
Yes.
Rather than like to just have a team member, then people, like a business will grow. That mentality kind of screwed me over a couple of times.
Yeah.
So like, whenever you say that, you know, there's like a different way to do business. I don't know about how you're scaling or how your business is, but you know, that's something I did before and I struggled before. So I kind of wanted to say.
I'm glad that you said that because I actually had a very similar situation.
Yeah.
I talked earlier about working out of a scarcity mindset and just taking a client to take a client. I did take on a client in 2021 that I was excited about, but I wasn't quite sure if it was going to be the right fit, but it was a lot of work. So I scaled my team at the time. And then when things with the client kind of, turned south and it just like wasn't what I signed up for anymore, wasn't what I signed my whole team up for anymore.
Yeah.
I had to make that decision to end that relationship. And then unfortunately, like I had to let a couple of my team members go because, I didn't have all of that work around for them to do anymore. So, I think that's really hard. Like growing your team, it's like a lot of stress because you're like, I'm responsible for these people's livelihood, you know? So I think that businesses that are just a one-man show or a two-man show, like can thrive, And
for sure.
Yeah. It's like growing your team. It doesn't need to be like the version of success for every business.
Yeah. All the AI stuff happening, all that kind of stuff. And then you can just do it faster.
Right.
But also like I heard it the other day that, all the revenues and all the team members is for your egos, and the income is just in their pocket. That what it all matters is sometimes profit. And then like honestly, like if you have a more revenue, doesn't mean if you make $1 million, but if you spend $1.2 million, you're broke.
Right. Right.
So, but I mean, I think that it's great to see that people like are growing, and then also that people starting the business and all kinds of different stories to be better yourself and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I get to inspire, and hopefully the listener got inspired, and I'm pretty sure they did.
I hope so.
How does a listener can find you?
I am on social media. My personal account is Kaylin's Kaleidoscope. My Instagram for my business is Collab Creative. And I'm on
K, right?
Collab with a K, yes. Creative with a C.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all of them. So
all of them, LinkedIn, whatever.
Yeah,
maybe.
LinkedIn. Not on YouTube, but maybe one day.
Yeah, if you rent this and then be
right, exactly,
on the YouTube.
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys watching for this episode of 40. And then if you guys are watching YouTube, please give us a comment and then hit the like button and then subscribe and all the good jazz. And if you're listening to Spotify or iTunes or some sort of podcast platform, give us a 5-star review and then share something. And if you know somebody needs to hear this kind of message, please share. And then some people around, maybe not in Oklahoma, maybe somewhere around the world or somewhere around the United States, some people can, I think, learn from this episode and then need to hear this. And then hopefully somebody start a business and then 5 years from now, they commented on the podcast, say, hey, this is what happened, and they got inspired, and that will means world to me. And then that's why I'm doing this podcast. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Peace.